So I've just realised all that stuff I've done for practice is useless because the microphone's not plugged in. Get ready for this vlog audio to improve quite rapidly. So that should be much better now. Hopefully you can hear me and it's all sounding fantastic. I hope you all had a fantastic Easter weekend. It's such a shame that it's nearly over. In fact, it is over basically. And I can't believe the kids are going back to school in a couple of days. It's crazy how fast things have gone by. I spent the weekend preparing and eating this wonderful thing. I haven't quite eaten all the lamb yet between us, but it was roast lamb, my favourite leg of roast lamb, with rosemary, stuffed apricots, garlic and a little bit of ginger. I put the little prep on Instagram, you can quickly see it now. And yeah, it tasted fantastic. Eaten a little bit too much chocolate, enjoyed some football. Had to do, as I said on Saturday, lots of work in Westminster this weekend, really busy weekend. And so this morning, we took the kids out for a bit, but I've kind of been on these doze days. But getting my second win now, which is kind of bad because I need to be going to bed soon. But anyway, I wanted to talk about practice schedules today. This is a practice schedule I did for one of my students. Sadly, I forgot that I'd left labels in the printer and I've now got it all printed out on nice label paper. But anyway, you get the idea and you can see what's going on. Essentially, I find if I don't have a plan when I'm practicing, I tend to end up noodling a lot and I tend to work on what I can already play. Now, during my practice today, I kicked off by listening to Naima off the Coltrane recording, the Live at the Village Vanguard, that's on my LP. And was basically got the, you know, could hear Coltrane running this certain idea, which is, let me grab my sax. It's kind of like the what is it? Off the third movement. In pursuance, is that right? I should really get that right. Never mind. We've been playing the thing long enough. Because I only had a limited amount of time to practice, 9 PM, the children are going in bed now and our cut-off was 9 and I knew I needed to record the vlog. I needed to make my practice quite quick. So I was just basically working on that idea. Can I move in different keys? Try with the Aebersold backing track. Can I run around a few different ideas? What does work over Naima as well? What have I used in the past over that? If you want to hear me playing and recording it, check out my SoundCloud page where there's a recording of me playing it on the Miles and Coltrane at 90. Anyway, moving off a little bit. What you guys want to know is kind of how do you go about getting a practice schedule together. So this is the sample one I've done for a student, and what I always suggest that you start off with are two most important things: your tone and your time. And if you head to my Cambridge Saxophone website, you'll hear me talk about those two things over and over and over again. So start with tone. Work through, you know, 10-click long tones, I say here, that's just playing each note for 10 seconds. Or you can do the subtone exercise, there's loads of ideas in that. The silent saxophone practice I've said about before. Long tones, there's loads and loads and loads and loads of different things, but start with long tones. I find if I start with long tones, I have a far more productive practice session than if I go straight into doing something. Now today I didn't start with long tones, probably why I didn't have that much of a productive session, but I also knew I was short on time. Then I work on time or technique, so running scales. at 60 and then running them at, you know, keeping the metronome at 60 but then doubling my own time, so I'm playing 2 beats, triplets, semiquavers, demi-semiquavers, that's 16th and whatever, 30-second notes in American terms, but just trying to keep working on time and keep a steady thing and just work on subdivision of the time alongside technique. Then I often work on trying to play certain ideas or phrases, as I was doing then, either a digital pattern. This is again what I advise students to do, digital patterns for students. Often it's playing melodies, so whether it's something as simple as playing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star in all 12 keys, or something a little bit more complicated, that's definitely worth doing. I've told the story before about when Amy was a little baby and I used to have to practice, and my studio there was sort of outside of the house, so I had to bring my saxophone into the house. Amy was asleep in the garden. I brought the sax in and I just played standards in all 12 keys. No music, just me, the saxophone. Sometimes a metronome, not enough times a metronome. Running arpeggios and 7th chords, again, really important. Then I'm transcribing, okay? That's a really huge part of my practice. And by transcribing, I'm working on tone by really intensely listening to a great player. For example, my students at Cambridge Saxophone at the moment are working on Blue 7 by Sonny Rollins. We're really listening intently to how Sonny phrases, articulates, and you start to pick up Sonny's tone, like picking up an accent. So transcribing is incredibly important. Then work on improvising. You know, whether it's just improvising myself, like I showed you in this video when I went out to lock myself in a church for 5 hours and just played. That's kind of the extreme end of things, but just sometimes just working on an idea. I might pick a standard, I might pick a funk groove, I might do some of these things you hear for the start of the vlogs, just working on a hip hop beat or something like that. Just something to practice improvising, because as a jazz musician, that's what I want to spend most of my time doing when I'm on the bandstand, is improvising. So whilst I can't practice improvising, I want to keep it in the moment, as I said on the little treat video I shared with you on Saturday. I need to be able to practice working on things and moving around. Then, I've said on this list, the 20 Songs in 20 Weeks course I did with Cambridge Saxophone, playing tunes. I find that's really important to do. Either tunes, playing a particular standard, playing the Bach cello suites, or playing an etude book. Something where I'm actually making some music, where I'm actually playing some music. I'm getting those sensors going in the brain. Because do you know, let's go tight here for this little explanation, because I found, and I'm going to talk about different practice things I've done, but I found my old college report card from my second year recital. But I did a paper in that year, I remember doing it because it sticks in the brain, about how the same pleasure centres in your brain light up when you're listening to music as they do when you're having sex, taking cocaine, or eating chocolate. I'm not going to comment about what you may have got up to this Easter weekend on those, but suffice to say, listening to music is an enjoyable experience, and playing music is an enjoyable experience, so make that part of your practice. And that's all I want to say on that. I want to just highlight a couple of mistakes I have made. One of the things, when I found this, just to share with you there, you know, sadly, I only got 88 for the performance. I think that's a bit unfair. I think it should have been a bit higher. I did once get 100% on something and it got marked out. That's another story. Anyway, what I want to share with you is this. I dug this out of the bookshelf. This was my first year in London. This is my first year practice volume 1. Now some of it's changed, but this is not, I don't know. Okay, I'll level with you. I was kind of thinking, I was definitely going to say to you, I do not advise doing this. This is a bad idea. Then I saw the mark sheet at the end and I thought, well, not do too badly, you know. But, whoa. Now the keyboard's joining in as a metronome. But there's too much in here. Far too much visual stuff. I've got loads and loads of etudes, loads of homemade etudes that I've done myself on particular scales. They're really good for technique. Excellent for building my technique up. But they didn't really do much for enhancing my soloing and my understanding of hearing things. And that's the most important thing when you're dealing with improvisation, especially in jazz, is hearing what's going on. And if you're always picking it out of a visual cue, you're not necessarily going to get it out of your ears. A couple of books that, well, this book's really good. The Art of Practicing, by Madeline Bruza. Excellent, highly recommend it. And The Musician's Way Both really good books. There's also a book which I've got knocking around, I may have shown you before on the vlog, called Practice Like the Pros by Sue Terry, I think. I'll try and link to them below. Another excellent book with some really good ideas of how to practice. Ultimately though, the thing that makes you better is what I say to my students, which is following Forshaw's first rule of practice, which is if it sounds really bad to anyone in earshot, it's normally something really good to practice. Hence long tones, the scales, all that kind of stuff. And it's the things we don't often want to do, is it? So they're the things that often make the difference to our practice. I hope you've enjoyed that little reflection on practice. If you want to get a practice planner, I don't know how to link to it below, but drop me a message or an email and I'll email you one over, kind of the dry version of this without anything on it, and you can kind of fill it in yourself. I often say to people who are just using the online lessons, just the video lessons, you can plan your lessons through using bookmarks, but I often find when I'm on the computer I get very easily distracted, so kind of having something written down in paper really helps. If you've enjoyed this and it's your first time, thank you very much for coming on board and watching. Please do subscribe, whether it's your first time or not, and if you already subscribe, hey, you've heard me doing this spiel a lot, so please keep the subscribers going. My goal is to hit 5,000 subscribers by the summer, so I've got a little bit of a way to go, so any help you can give me would really help me enhance these videos for you. Don't forget, if you haven't watched the next two videos that are coming up, make sure you give them a go, and please spread the word, and I'll see you very soon.